Okay, that is always so much fun. Okay, we will now hear public comment.
Absolutely. Dr. Winborn, how many do we have for public comment? Well,
We
I
have
mean,
two
you're
this
just
evening.
busy as you can be.
This
I'm
evening.
just asking you things.
We have two who have signed up. The first is Bernard Holliday. Mr. Holliday, sir, when you're ready, I will start the timer, and you have 5 minutes, and I'll let you know when you have about a minute remaining. Mr. Holliday,
Houlihan, Dr. McLean.
would you like to come forward to the podium, sir?
Well, I think I'll operate from here.
Are you sure?
Yes,
Yeah,
I'll
there's-
check.
Let him
Okay.
stay there.
Yes, sir.
So we'll just stand
Okay,
here.
members of the school board, members of the staff, families represented, and of course, our lovely students, K through 12. I'm holding in my hand a special gift, symbolic. I cannot leave this with you permanently. This is a replica of the world globe. The biblical record tells us, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And in the same manner, created Adam and Eve and placed them in the Garden of Eden. We are the descendants of Adam and Eve. And as parents and citizens of this state and republic, we are a part of a world community. We know what the test scores have indicated regarding achievements in these United States, North Carolina in particular, which is a dismal record for this state. Congratulations to early college here in Granville County, setting the pace. And so I'm saying to the school board in particular, policymakers, to the staff, superintendent, coaches of principals, as well as parents, use this replica of the world globe. Don't shy away from the fact that it may not be in every classroom. Make sure that one is in every classroom. Make sure that every family, under the sound of my voice and elsewhere, has one in the home. And when you have that, get a copy of Webster's Student Dictionary, initiated by the Center for Living, founded in 1999. And we distributed them starting at elementary level, middle school, etc. There's no excuse for failure in our county. And we must work together as a collective unit. Let us not forget, $30 million will go in the ground for a prison. You know and I know why it's being built. It's a disgrace, it's a dishonor for me to stand here, class of 51, Shaw University and elsewhere, to live in urban centers, ghettos, and to see them turn around. We can do the same thing with these young, brilliant, budding minds. The average brain for a child is under 5 pounds. Let us not dilly-dally with this precious gift. You only educate them once. And this is an instrument of which we are a part. The world. There are at least 16 different languages that every adult under the sound of my voice must deal with if you were in these United States.
1 minute, sir.
Yes, 1 minute. And so, as I was introduced to French, German, Latino. I know something about slang, but I also know something about good English. And so I leave you, my friends, with this dictionary, and there's a map in here of Mother Earth. I have to hold on to this because I'm going to make it my business to carry this globe around and talk about the value. Thank you for your time. Give this to the superintendent.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, we have one other person that has signed up for public comment, Mr. William Lanham Jr. of 2079 Possum Lane, Oxford, North Carolina, and the topic is Joe Toller. Mr. Lanham, when you are ready, you may come forward and I'll start the timer. And I'll give you a warning when you have a minute left.
I have two kids that go to Joe Toller. One's 7 years old, one 9 years old. I've heard rumors that they want to close that school. I have a 4-year-old at home that begs me every day when he gets up, do I get to go to school today? As a parent, that is the hardest thing to tell him no. Because he can't start till next year. And then when I hear the rumors that they want to close Toller, that tears my heart out. And I will tell you now, that is the worst feeling as a parent, to have to tell your kid, you can't go to school. You may not be able to go to that school with your brothers. If that door closes, I don't know what I'm gonna tell my kids. Every morning, I get up, I take my kids to school, because I work weekends, so I'm home 4 days a week to take my kids to school. When I take my kids to school, there ain't one staff member there that don't have a smile on their face. Good morning, Mr. Lanham. They look at my kids, they know them by name. If I have a question, I dropped out of school in 2000 when I ruptured my spleen. So I didn't get a full education. I had to go to school and get my GED. When I have a question, because there's some of the curriculum that I don't understand, I'm 33 years old. And you know what? I don't understand it. I can go in the next morning and say, look, I didn't understand it. Can you explain it to me? That, for a grown man, is one of the hardest things to ever do. Walk up to a teacher and go, I'm sorry, but I don't understand your curriculum you're teaching a kid. How can I help my kid with the homework? So I can go to any one of them teachers at that school at any time and say, I need help. They'll sit me down, show me examples, explain it to me. I have no problem with that. They have no problem with that. If I have to, I can call the school, call Mr. Allen, call any of them. I need help. I don't understand it. They'll walk me through it. But I got a 4-year-old at home right now. I told him I couldn't take him to school this morning. I told him I was going to a board meeting to stand up for the school, to try to stop them doors from being shut. He cried when I walked out the door because he wanted to come. There is no way that I'm going to be able to walk up to my son and tell him them doors are closed. There is no way I can do that. And that is one of the hardest things that I know I may have to do. And I've had several people come up to me and go, you hear the rumors. You hear this is on the agenda. And when my son hears that, he looks at me and goes, Daddy, do I get to go to school? And I tell him, you may not be able to get to go to that school. And he sits there and cries. He's only 4 years old. I have to tell him that every day. Sorry, son, you can't go to school today. Maybe next year. He begs me to take him to pre-K every day because he wants to go to school. He wants to learn. He wants to be with the other kids and play. He wants to be with his big brothers at the same school. And I have to tell him no. Both me and my wife volunteer. We're both on the list as parent volunteers. She's the box stop coordinator for the school. it's one of the hardest things to have to sit there and every day look at that. When I drive into that driveway, I go, this might be the last year I'm there. This might be the last year my kids go there. I got a 2-year-old at home. I want him to go to that school. I want him to say, you're following it. I want him to tell him you're following your brother's footsteps and going to one of the best schools I've ever seen.
1 minute, sir.
And when I was in school, my parents moved every year. I've seen more schools than I can count. I never seen a school as patient and is outgoing and helping parents understand what they're teaching today as I have with that school. That's all I got.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yes, good evening again, Mr. Chair, members of the Board of Education, and our audience. As always, it gives me great pleasure this evening to share some exciting work occurring in Granville County Public Schools. However, I would be remiss if I did not begin this evening with the acknowledgement of genuine thanks and appreciation to Mr. Pat Cox, who's with us for the final time for 19 years of service as a board member. Service to our children in our school system and our community. So Mr. Cox, on behalf of our entire school district, we know we had a little reception, but there are a few others who may not have been there. We just want to say thank you for your service. Next, I would like to thank our many educators who made this past Friday so special for our many students as they helped our pupils grow in the area of character. Character by engaging in a variety of experiences for our second annual Granville County Public Schools Day of Giving and Sharing. Every school had their own take on this, but take a look at just one example of how a particular school of pupils in our community are making an impact not only locally, but globally. This evening I'm sharing with you that our teacher at West Oxford Elementary, Miss Janice Torgeson, learned that a retired educator, a friend of hers, by the name of Miss Laura Santos Gable, was making a trip to Kenya in October. She and Principal Hunt brainstormed to create a memorable experience for the West Oxford Elementary School students. The students decorated paper hearts with words of encouragement for school children in Kenya. The school made a video to send along to the Kibera School for Children. Those hearts, along with the West Oxford t-shirts and special wristbands, were delivered on October 4th. Take a look. There's a mute button, it seems, Stan. That's on. We can hear a little something.
Let me start it over.
Yes, let's start.
We love you, Kenya.
Hello, girls. We are sending you wishes all the way from Oxford, North Carolina. We love you. We are wishing you the best. We want you to rock and do your best.
Together and feel alright. One love.
Here you go, Miss Gable. Here are our hearts to take to Kenya. Safe travels and thank you so much. You're welcome. Yay!
Let's get together and feel alright. One love. together and feel alright.
One more thing, let's get together to fight this holy Armageddon.
One love,
There will be no,
one song.
whose chances grow thinner. There ain't no hiding place from the Father of creation. Say it,
One love,
one heart,
one heart.
one
Let's get together and feel alright.
I'm beginning to make you
One love, one heart. Give thanks and praise to the Lord, and I will feel alright. Let's get together and feel alright. Let's get together and feel alright.
Isn't that incredible? And that's just one of our many schools. Remember, they have the global theme. And if you have an opportunity to visit West Oxford, you'll see flags from all over the world. Those students are being exposed not only to academics, but to being good characters and helping others, not just at home, but all over the world. We thought that was pretty powerful. Thank you for letting me share.
Thanks.
Now I would like to introduce our new Exceptional Children's Director. Well, Miss Aniko Gorham, who's been on the job all of 3 days, please stand. Mrs. Miss Gorham is welcome. We are delighted to have her join our team. Also, we're in the midst of a report card pickup this week, so if you have an opportunity, don't forget to remind our parents and friends and grandparents to get by school. We want to see people so that we can talk about grades, report cards, and performance thus far. Today, we had a Granville Ed Foundation meeting, and at today's meeting, I learned that our Granville Ed Foundation grants, over which we had 75 grant applications get submitted, will be determined next Friday. So stay tuned. The prize patrol is coming around. Now, since we last met, a great deal has transpired across our entire district. We have finally completed our wonderful Student of Merit ceremonies, whereby we honored over 1,000 students with honor roll status at our middle and high schools. We celebrated Bullying Prevention Month and Breast Cancer Awareness Month, all of October in a variety of ways. And we've even kicked off our United Way efforts district-wide. Our principals and school improvement teams completed their first round of school improvement plan efforts. And some principals even had the unique opportunity to present and share with our Board of Education. Speaking of such, our board had an exhaustive 2-day work session whereby they not only prepared for tonight's work on school improvement plans, on which they will vote shortly, but they took action on the merger of JF Webb High School and Webb HLS for the year 2021, allowing time to properly prepare for the transition, because we fully expect nothing should be different except changing the name school to either academy or program, and then a few additional academies to Webb. Nonetheless, we are already in the throes of developing a joint design team comprised of students, parents, staff, and leaders from both schools. I cannot wait to see all the new Webb will become in the year 2021. For now, I've given the guarantee that we fully expect absolutely nothing will be different for our current juniors and seniors. And our current sophomores should feel minimal impact at graduation time too. In fact, when we recruit this year, we will just be careful to let everyone know nothing with HLS should be different. Just the name change is around the corner for 2021. Our board also heard the requested study for Joe Toller Elementary. They are in the process of creating their questions for the community survey. And on December 4th, they will, 1, receive additional information requested, as well as 2, hold the public hearing. both legal components to each and every study. The 4 requested studies are an effort to identify $955,770 this board agreed to instead of relying on their fund balance in an effort not to cut additional positions this year. Finally, we have learned that this year, our own early college, once again, was one of only about 7% of the schools in the state receiving A status. That includes public and public charter schools. There were only 185. We have a few B schools very close to attaining that status. So go early college, and to my B schools, keep forging ahead. In your folder this evening, board members, you have a flyer that references Breakfast After the Bell. This is a new initiative in the state of North Carolina. And I ask you to do a little homework in this area because this may very well be something we'd like to consider during budget season. On another note, I hope to see all of you at our upcoming kitchen table conversation on next Tuesday, November 13th at Mount Energy Elementary School at 6 p.m. And on next Thursday evening, we will have our very first safety summit. It will be held at Northern Granville Middle School at 6 p.m. as well. All are invited to attend both. Despite a great deal occurring around us, GCPS is definitely on the move. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much. Okay, reports from other board members? Mr. Beauty?
Last week I attended the Safety Task Force meeting, and they would like for this board to take into consideration revisiting our policy on visitors and family members. Some of the problems they're having is the families walking up, trying to pick up the kids, and each school has a different policy on how it's done, before and after school. Parents bringing food to school every day and expecting their kids to be able to eat separate from the rest of the children. And they want a stricter standards on enforcing the policies and background checks. So I told them I'd bring it up tonight. I know we have a committee that looks at discipline, but I didn't know who did the policies under family and visitors.
What, explain, if you would, I'm curious more than anything about parents bringing lunch for kids and not sitting with the rest of the group.
There are some parents that are bringing their children lunches every day. And I think there's a few in one of the schools that expect when they bring their children lunch, that they expect that kid to be able to eat separate with them instead of with the rest of the.
Oh, with the parent. Well, gee, that's sure interesting.
Several scenarios were mentioned at the Safety Task Force. That's one of several. So we can certainly convene a committee of sorts to take a look at that policy and doing something with regard, through the lens of safety is how they sort of framed it. If people are coming that often and frequently, also the separatism. I believe that issue was of concern to the committee.
Because I believe the other thing, every school has either a similar or different policy on picking up their children. Some have cards they have to have, some require them to stay in their cars, that they're not allowed to walk up. So what they're looking for is a district-wide policy where every school will adhere to it the same.
Will you look into that? Is that your thing? Thank you, Judy. Anybody else? Yes, sir?
I have 4 or 5 things, I'm sure. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Let me put at the top of my list a special thank you to Mr. Pat Cox. And I say that for the audience, and the board already knows, but I've had the pleasure the past 2 years of working on the Finance Committee with Mr. Cox and Ms. Def Day. So I know Mr. Cox knows where everything is hidden, if you will. And we spent a lot of hours in Ms. Day's office going over the finances of our school district, and I appreciate your participation and your support, and wish you the very best, Pat.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
The second item I'd like to just address is the Unwrapping the Gift, and He Matters, this booklet. I had the first opportunity to, I guess, become familiar with this organization as a former county commissioner. The Juvenile Crime Prevention Council supports this program. So Granville County is definitely a big supporter of Unwrapping the Gift, and He Matters. And this is part of an initiative to identify programs to help at-risk or potential at-risk youth. And I was just so impressed. Before we started our meeting, I had a chance to go through every page. And I think this is an outstanding magazine, and hopefully they will continue to publish this to just let the community know about the various activities in which they are participating. So Ms. Oakley and all of those who support her, I truly appreciate the work that's being done. The third thing I wanted to point out, it was interesting about the breakfast after the bell. And I sort of smiled, Superintendent McLean, when you said that hopefully we will consider this, because I made a note that this handout on the importance of having breakfast is something that this board should certainly consider when we approve the next budget, because at this last budget, we had a very brief discussion on universal breakfast, and it didn't get the support. This is saying breakfast makes a difference. So board members, next budget time, hopefully you will be supportive of a breakfast program. The next item, I heard from some stakeholders, and perhaps all of us, or many of us heard from stakeholders or constituents after our meeting in which we discussed the merger of schools and studies on other schools. And I just want to point out to the board, we voted, we made a decision, we're moving on, but I've had a couple people that mentioned that they weren't sure, and I wasn't really sure either. Maybe you all can straighten me out, or the attorney can. Our policy on making major decisions when we don't have a full complement of the board. I know Mr. Richardson is out. I mean, I think I was out when you first arrived, Superintendent McLean, and I know those occasions happen and so forth. I was asked. I just wasn't sure if there is a policy or what the policy is. You know, the show must go on. I understand that. But if there's a policy, I would like to know. But also, it was brought to my attention that not all stakeholders were present at the meeting. In other words, they indicated that there were remarks from Web, Health and Life Science, but they didn't recall seeing anyone here from Big Web. And they just wondered, you make a decision when you don't have all of the stakeholders present. I just bring that to your attention. As we move forward in making our decisions, we need to perhaps consider those things. At last meeting, we talked about our agenda and the length of our agenda. And I just wanted to point out, as a sort of a numbers guy, I sat down before, and if we look at all the major topics and the line items, we have about 30 line items in tonight's agenda. And that's quite a number. So, Pat, hopefully you will get home before 2. That means we can all get home before 2. But as we look at how we can streamline our meeting, obviously if I talk less, that will help. But if we have fewer line items, that will help as well.
That's very well said.
And was there one other thing? I think that's it. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Mims, do you have a suggestion about how we deal with the things you raised regarding the web? and everything?
No, I don't. I was just asked, and I wasn't sure exactly what the policy is. Maybe we can talk about that during a retreat or something, and so we can all be clear as we
Well, I
move
think
forward.
that's important right now because of this topic. Is there a policy regarding,
Yeah, regarding which, the decision-making,
yes, the decision
That's
making
the
process?
first.
when someone is not here, when a board member is not present? Is that, am I understanding the question correctly?
Well, yeah, that's what I was asked. They said it wasn't a full complement. Mr. Cox was out that evening. But like I said, I know that there have been other instances when we've made decisions, even though I sent in a written comments when our superintendent was first voted on, showing my support for her. But I just wasn't sure when I was asked about what the policy is.
Yes, you do have a policy, it's, I mean, there are various policies that apply, but board policy 2341 talks about a quorum. And in general, the policy is that as long as you have a majority of the board present, and that if there's not a majority present, that the meeting would be postponed.
Sure.
I think we can also address the other public hearing piece, that although there may be one group more represented more than the other, is there a policy for that, or whoever comes to the
Well,
public
was the
hearing?
question about, at the board meeting, that one principal was here, not the other?
Well,
Which I
the
recall
way it
being
was
a coincidence.
The way it was mentioned to me, there was representation from one school, and I don't know if there was representation from the other school because only one principal spoke, so I wasn't able to say, and I didn't know if there was someone in the audience representing where, and if they were, they didn't say anything.
Right.
And so I couldn't respond to the constituent who raised that.
And my recollection is that principal was here for something else.
Right, it was not here necessarily for that, but as you all began to discuss the topic, it
Yes.
got to the point you wanted to know something.
Let me take this just a little further to